In this video, we're going to be looking at how we can build artificial intelligence in a way that is responsible, transparent, accountable, and compliant with the ethical regulations around the world. This lecture is not intended to criticize the use of artificial intelligence. The purpose of this lecture is to show you and to convince you that we can continue using AI if the developers would adopt certain rules, certain tasks, that they won't compromise the value of the AI algorithms. It won't compromise their intellectual property or the security of the AI systems. But in the process, they're going to ensure transparency of how the algorithm makes decision. The idea here is that we need to eliminate any bias from AI algorithms. And as a developer who builds AI algorithms, I can assure you that many of the algorithms that I have built are biased. And there's a process that I have to follow afterwards to evaluate and to test those algorithms to ensure that those biases have been eliminated. In 2023, with the rapid rise of AI algorithms, there's more and more users, and some of these tasks have been ignored for the purposes of developing the tool and commercializing it at a fast pace. In the future, the regulations are shifting towards increased transparency of the algorithms, that we can see how the algorithm is built and how does it make decisions. This would ensure different regulators that there is no risk for bias or risk for national security from that specific algorithm. I would argue that this lecture is looking at the AI from the positive perspective, because if AI continues to grow and develop, it needs to be adopted across the whole world, in China, US, European Union, and in every single part of the world. To ensure that, people need to be convinced that the AI is not biased. If one group feels that the AI is making biased decisions against them, or if an employee feels that he didn't get the job because the AI was biased towards a different employee, this would decrease the adoption rate of AI. So it's not going to be positive for the AI developers to build AI tools that people fear that they are not transparent, that they are not accountable, that they are biased. And the steps that we would explain in this lecture note in the next 10 minutes would assure you that it's not about suppressing the development of AI. It's about imposing specific tasks that the developers, as computer scientists, are not aware that they need to perform. In terms of data sampling, how do they obtain the data? How do they test the algorithm? How do they evaluate the algorithm? How do they verify the results prior to deployment of the algorithm? Because once the algorithm is deployed and into the world, if it does damage, if it starts making biased decisions, it's too late then to reverse it and correct it. People will lose faith in it. One example is when Cambridge Analytica did damage to Facebook, and Facebook never really recovered. Although it was not Facebook sharing the data, it was Cambridge Analytica which ceased to exist. And Mark Zuckerberg has went out in public to explain to people that it was not his fault. Still, people lost faith in Facebook, and many people refuse to use Facebook now. We don't want the same repetition with AI. That is why it's useful to think about those regulations and AI tools before the damage is done, not after. One of the main concerns of machine learning and AI systems is the privacy and ethical concerns. With the AI being integrated into every aspect of our society, including healthcare and your mobile device, you're literally holding AI system with you almost for the entire part of the day. Even if you don't realize that there's an AI system that you're currently using, there's probably a system that is like your Apple Watch or the computer that is somehow related to AI. And in this section, it's very important to understand what are the sources of bias in those AI systems. Why is some system being biased, and how do we define bias and fairness in terms of regulating AI? One of the main concerns is the data. If you have incomplete data sets, and this is quite often, it happens when you have missing data, we're training models based on incomplete data sets. And in other section of this, the more technical aspects of this tutorial, we're explaining how do we mitigate the lack of data. If we have incomplete data set, we are applying statistics and different mathematical models to match that data set. It's not always working because it's based on assumptions. Another thing is the model fitting. So if you have too much data, then the model could be overfitted, and then biased algorithm could emerge. In that case, you need to reduce the data. And one very easy example here is that if you have a model that is truly representative of the specific society, which has biases towards religion, towards ethical, gender biases, those things, they need to be eradicated and taken out, replaced from the model. The AI should not be representative of those biases. And when we try to build consumer type AI, we're more and more concerned with how is that AI going to be sold, and people do want algorithms that they're based on their personal beliefs. Human beliefs are sometimes, quite often, they're in the wrong. We don't have our beliefs sorted out yet, and those incorrect, biased beliefs are implemented in the data, and the data is represented in the model. So we need to filter those things from the models. And this leads to the design. If there's a lack of diversity in the development of the actual design team, some of these things could be missed out. I'm not claiming to be an expert in fairness, but I do understand my perspective of fairness, and you need to have different perspectives in the development to ensure bias is not included in the model. And what are the types of bias? This is another key thing, because bias is not always represented as one thing. We have sampling bias when there's a non-representative sample. Something is just not represented in the data. There's algorithmic bias. This is decision making, which is biased. Cultural bias. So we have stereotypes or societal norms. Even if you think 50 years ago, how many things in our culture are currently being are unaccepted. So those algorithms, they need to evolve. They need to change with time. Nothing is static. And when we build algorithms, if we don't have the function of improving that algorithm in the future, that is clearly going to be a biased algorithm with time, because our own cultural explanation of stereotypes, it's clearly biased. And what is the impact of bias? Well, it leads to unfair outcomes. And even if you leave ethics out of it, if you're trying to use AI algorithm for a specific purpose and the outcome is unfair, if it leads to discrimination, if it leads to erosion of trust into that system, people just won't use it. And if that adoption of AI is not increasing, this is negatively affecting the AI system, which means that the privacy and the ethical consideration are not against AI, but they are positive, and they lead to improved usage of AI. What are the measures that we need to take for fairness? First is we need to have a balanced data set. Second, we need to have regular audits. We need to improve the design practices. And we also need to have a feedback loop, that we are constantly getting feedback from the algorithm to the designers, to the measures that we have implemented, and that should go back to every aspect that we need to fix. The types of bias that we are aware, the impact of bias needs to be updated, and the sources of bias needs to be changed in order for the measures to be adopted, for new performance indicators to be used. We need to revise the models then, and we need to update the practices for building those AI models. And this process is ongoing at every step of the way. There's constantly going to be new data coming in, new regulations coming in, changes kicking in, in order for this to be considered as a fully compliant process. And with that, we have completed another video tutorial on AI systems. Hopefully now you feel even more confident to use different AI tools that are available on the market. If you're interested in this kind of content, please subscribe and you're going to be getting notifications when I upload a new video. The types of videos that I'm going to be uploading, you can check my channel. So if you're interested in this kind of content, please subscribe and you're going to be getting two types of video contents. One, lecture notes on very complicated AI subjects, or short demos. My name is PETAR. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in the Department of Computer Science in the University of Oxford. This is not a funded video. It's purely for educational purposes. Nobody's funding me to do this kind of videos. On that note, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.